Welcome to a new Juju Live Session, a very special one, a session about the real life of Oriental dancers in Egypt. This is a theme I've been asked so many times. It is a polemic theme. It is also a theme so many Oriental dancers want to know about because performing in Egypt, building a career in Egypt is, I believe, still one of the biggest dreams that Oriental dancers can dream of. So in this Juju Live session, I'm going to answer a few of the questions I have received. I have to confess, I will not be able to answer them all. I received a lot of questions via email. I have also received questions throughout these years, and of course, I had to choose the ones I feel are the most interesting and the ones that are perhaps going to inspire most dancers, okay? So forgive me if I have left one of your questions out of this session, but it wasn't possible to fit it all in one single session, all right? Then again, I'm gonna tell you the truth, at least my truth, my experience in Egypt, not as a student, but as a professional dancer. I started my career in Egypt, where I spent 8 years of my life performing with my own orchestra at the best venues of the country, and at the same time working and studying with the father of Egyptian folklore, Mr. Mahmoud Reda. So I am drawing my answers from direct personal and professional experience. Before I dive into the questions, I want to answer one urgent, one immediate question that really opens the session, and then I'm going to present myself as it is protocol, okay? So the first question that I want to open this session with is if it is worthy, the jump, the leap of faith into Egypt, if it is worthy, if I regret or not having moved to Egypt and having spent almost a decade of my life performing there, aside from the many years of study I had already gone through before I moved. Is it worthy? And my answer is absolutely yes, and for a very simple reason. I believe that we must do what is in our hearts, and we must own the decisions and the consequences of the decisions we make. So it is worthy for me, not only in professional terms, of course, because everything I share nowadays comes directly from my experience of traveling the world, teaching, performing, choreographing, judging, but mostly from my experience in Egypt. So I would not be here doing what I do, having a school with a global community of dancers and a platform that delivers authentic Egyptian dance, personal discovery and empowerment, if I have not gone through Egypt, if I have not challenged myself the way I did, and if I had not spent so many years not only performing in Egypt, but researching, observing, learning. I was a professional there, but I was also a student, and I was with my eyes wide open. So it is worthy for personal reasons, for professional reasons, and most of all because, as I mentioned, I think it is important for us to follow our heart. I know this is a cliche, but it is a cliche for good reason. Now, before I read the first official question for this live session, let's do the protocol. My name is Joana Saahirah. I'm a world-renowned Oriental dancer, teacher, choreographer, author, and I'm also the creator of the pioneering Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School, delivering authentic Egyptian dance, personal discovery, and empowerment. And first question that I have selected: why and how did you move to Egypt? Sorry guys, I will be reading, okay, because I did not memorize. There are a lot of questions. So why and how did I move to Egypt? Let's go to the why first. When I started studying Egyptian dance, I had no idea that I would become a professional. In fact, I was studying to be an actress at the Conservatoire, at the National Theatre and Cinema School. I was already working as an actress in the theater, in television. I wanted to do cinema. That was my destiny as far as I was concerned. But Egyptian dance took me by the hand and made me fall in love in such a way, and changed me, and transformed me, empowered me in such a way that without noticing, I was spending more time investing in my dance than I was in my main goal, which was at the time to become an actress. When I realized that Egyptian dance had already conquered me, okay, so it was not a conscious choice of let's do this professionally. The second thing I want to share with you is the move to Egypt was something that was not sudden. It was thought of, it was reflected upon, it was something that was growing on me during all the years I was studying in Egypt, because even before I moved, I had gone to Egypt many times to study and to know the country and to know a little bit of the language and the culture. And one day at the end of a show in Lisbon, Portugal, a very successful show, full house, very happy audience, I started crying and I felt in my heart, I can do more than this and I need to know more than this. I know people are happy and I'm very grateful because I was just starting my career and I had full houses in everything. My workshops, my classes, my shows, my lectures, everything was full. And I was super grateful for it, but I knew there was more for me. I knew in my heart that I needed to expand myself professionally and I needed to go to the roots of the dance so that I could fairly perform and teach the dance. I knew that I had to challenge myself in the origin, in the place of birth of the dance, and I knew I had to go deep into the core, into the bones of the dance by becoming an Oriental dancer in the context of Egypt. That meant knowing Egyptian dance from the inside out, knowing the history, knowing how it's done according to Egyptians, according to Egyptian standard, knowing what it means to do or to practice Egyptian dance. I wanted to know it all and I wanted to know it deeply. This is the reason why I moved to Egypt. At the time, as it happens, I heard people telling me that I moved to Egypt because I had fallen in love with an Egyptian. And you know, people like to talk and to make up crazy, dramatic, exciting stories, but that was never the case. I never moved to Egypt because I had fallen in love with someone. I moved to Egypt because I wanted to know my craft in depth. I wanted to be the best at what I do, and I wanted to know it from the source. This is the reason, the main reason why I moved to Egypt. Now, how did I move? It is quite simple and crazy because I did not have impresarios, I did not have a manager, I did not have someone helping me, I did not have a promise of work, I had zero, nothing. I only had a dream, my courage, and a lot of guts. So I moved to Egypt as you move to any other country. I packed my things and I moved. I bought a one-way ticket and I knew that I was going to stay. That's it. It's super simple. Obviously not that simple in the sense that I was already working with dance, right? I was working in theater, television, and dance. In Egypt, I could not work in theater or in television because I did not speak Arabic at the time. So I knew that as an actress, I could not work. But I could work as a dancer, right? Maybe not. Because when I arrived to Egypt, believe it or not, I was informed there was a law forbidding foreign Oriental dancers to do it professionally solo. So the work I was gonna go to Egypt to do was forbidden by law the moment I arrived to Cairo. Can you believe this? Yes, yes. So easy, so nice, very sweet. So how did I move to Egypt? I just moved. I worked my ass off for a couple of years in my country to save some money because I imagined my first years in Egypt would be tough. I did not know how long it would take me to get some real work with good payment. And when I mean good payment, is a payment that allows me to live from my dance work. Because remember, I'm a professional dancer. I am not an engineer or any other thing that goes to Egypt to dance and has someone supporting her. I had no one supporting me. I was on my own and I was the only one paying my bills. the rent of a house, food, dressing, transportation, everything. So I knew that it would probably take a few months or perhaps even years before I could have a well-paid job in dance in Egypt. And I also knew I was on my own. That meant I had no one helping me financially. So there was a preparation, right? Before I moved to Egypt, I had to save money in order to move with a minimum of security and offering myself the time to get to know the language a little bit, get to know the dance, have some experience, and work for my luck, work for my chance, work for a contract. So moving to Egypt is not difficult if you have someone supporting you financially, in the sense that if you don't need to work and pay your bills from your dance work in Egypt, you're fine. But if you're going there alone, no support, by yourself, financially independent, only relying on yourself to pay your bills, to survive, that's another story. And in that case, I believe that the key is preparation. You need to have a good mind, good brain, and understand what it takes to actually move, leave from your dance, and sustain yourself if things don't go as you expect. And they usually don't go as we expect. Okay? So, what else do I have here for you? Who helped you to get a dance contract in Egypt? Nobody. And I mean nobody. Quite the opposite. I had a lot of voices telling me to go away. I had a lot of voices telling me that I was too beautiful to be an Oriental dancer. I would be better off married to a rich Arab guy. Even people that are respected in our field. I'm not going to name names because I'm professional and I'm elegant, and I don't think that naming names is helpful, but very famous people in our environment, authorities in the field of Egyptian dance, have told me, because I have never forgotten, that I would be better off marrying a rich guy. Why do you bother? You're never gonna make it. They told me this. So nobody helped me get a contract in Egypt. Nobody helped me get work in Egypt. When I arrived to Egypt and I faced the reality that I was not allowed legally to do the job I wanted to do, because as I mentioned, there was a law forbidding foreign dancers to do professional Oriental dancer as solo dancers. When I realized this was the situation, I started searching for solutions. Okay, what can I do? I can work in groups, I can work in folkloric troupes, I can work outside of Egypt, I can work on video clips on television. And this is exactly where I started, okay? I was part of a troupe that was traveling Egypt to perform Egyptian folklore and Lebanese dabka and khaligi and all sorts of Arabic dances. I was also hired by one famous dancer of our environment, a well-known teacher. Then again, I'm not going to name names, but he was hiring students and hiring professional dancers to work for him. More than a dancer, he was an impresario of dancers, and he caught me. He caught me into his team, and he started hiring me to do video clips for singers, clips for photo shoots, and also a work in Oman for Sultan Qaboos. Yes, this is how I started. Soon after that, I got a contract in Lebanon, in Beirut, and there is a story about that. I'm gonna tell it at the end of this Juju Live Session, so stay until the end, okay? So my first dance jobs were not the jobs that I wanted. They were not the jobs that I moved to Egypt to do, okay? They were the jobs that I could manage to find at the time. Group work, troupe work, folkloric work, and ultimately my first dance, Oriental dance contract in Lebanon, in Beirut, until the law was removed from Egypt. So that famous law that was forbidding foreign dancers from practicing Oriental dance solo in Egypt was eventually removed. And when it was removed, I came back to Egypt and I started an entire new chapter in my journey. Okay, but there was no help There was no one opening doors. There were people who were giving me small opportunities, like hiring me, paying me very badly for my work, for sure, but hiring me. There were people tossing information around and I would catch it and I would use it. There were people suggesting stuff, but there was no one who opened a door for me. I opened the doors for myself, big time. And I'm very proud of it, actually. Very proud. Question number 3. What were the biggest difficulties you found? Where do I start? Oh my God, where do I start? Where were the biggest difficulties I found? I'm just gonna mention a few, okay? I'm just gonna mention a few because we would be here forever if I told you in detail all the difficulties I found, right? First of all, the difficulty of solitude, being alone in a country like Egypt, and being alone in a position that was not very comfortable. So I was not there as a student. I was there to conquer a place for myself. So teachers and contacts that otherwise had supported me and been very nice to me suddenly were feeling threatened. Why are you here? How long are you gonna stay? Do you think you will ever amount to anything? A lot of the doors that had been opened when I traveled to Egypt as a student were suddenly closed. So the first big difficulty was loneliness, to be very honest. I would go back to my apartment, my first apartment in Heliopolis, and just cry, because I felt so lonely. The second difficulty was sexual harassment. And I know that a lot of dancers and teachers and people in this business that don't like me to speak about this, even if it is the truth. Okay, but I like to speak the truth because I think if we expose certain problems, we can discuss them and we can find solutions for them. If we pretend those problems don't exist, they're going to perpetuate themselves. They're going to continue stronger and stronger. So it is important to name things and to identify the elephants in the room. First, I felt lonely, then I felt the weight of sexual harassment. And I don't even mean sexual harassment in the field of Egyptian dance. That was later on. Okay, that was later on. I mean sexual harassment every single time I went out my door. Every single time I went into the street to buy me a coffee or to go to the supermarket, I would have a nervous breakdown because men would sexually harass me violently. So often I would be afraid to leave my apartment. I would think, is it worthy? Am I ready? Am I mentally strong today to face what I'm going to face in the street? That's how bad it was. And for me, particularly, that was a challenge. I know that not every woman reacts the same way. Some women are kind of okay with sexual harassment for some reason. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that I am not okay with it. And it was difficult for me. It was very tiring. It was scary. It was soul crashing. Another difficulty was precisely what I've already mentioned. When I arrived, there was a law forbidding me to do what I was meant to be doing. So when you come with a big dream on your hands and you face an illegal issue, you are legally forbidden to accomplish your dream. Can you imagine seeing yourself alone in Egypt, no friends, no impresarios or managers or anyone else to help you, and the thing you went there to do is the thing that was considered illegal? So, of course, this is a big challenge, because I thought, how am I going to live? I'm a professional dancer. I have lived so far from my acting training, from my acting skills, and from my dance. And I'm reminding you, I was very, very young. I'm talking about 22 years old, okay, 21, 22. So I was so fresh and so immature and so young, But I knew that, then again, I could not work as an actress because I did not speak Arabic at the time, and I could not work as a dancer, at least not as a solo dancer, Oriental solo dancer, because it was illegal. It was forbidden for foreigners to do so. So this is a big challenge, you know. What can I do? What am I going to do? In a few months, my economies will be spent. I will be left with zero. I have to start earning money soon. How? You know, and this is where I started doing the parallel jobs, the parallel gigs of the video clips, the photo shoots for fashion, the folkloric work, the contract in Lebanon. There were ways of working and earning some money that came along because I started to move in that direction and asking around and searching for other dancers and actively pursuing other ways of making money out of my dance that were not necessarily going through my ideal job. I knew that my ideal job would come in time, but it was not possible at the time. So this was unnerving, and it was a big problem in my head, you know. When my mom dropped me there, she went with me to Egypt, stayed there, I think 2 weeks, something like that, and then she had to leave, and she asked me, why are you staying, you know? You came here to build an Oriental dancer solo career, but it is forbidden by law, and you don't even know if this law is ever going to change. Why don't you come back with me? How are you going to survive in this country alone, not even being able to do what you came to do? Come back. And of course, I knew I would never come back because I had decided this was my mission, this was my dream, and I was gonna make it, come rain or come shine. So it was never a question of deciding, am I gonna quit because this is so hard? No, I would never quit. But I felt the pain of challenges. Another big challenge that really wore me off, that really was heavy on me, was the fact that I started to notice how Egyptians saw Egyptian dance and Oriental dancers, rehearse, how Egyptians saw professional Oriental dancers, and how Egyptians saw Egyptian dance. I came from studying with beautiful teachers in Egypt and abroad, teachers who passed on an image of Oriental dance that is of beauty, art, dignity, soulfulness. I had no idea that in Egypt, Egyptian dance and Oriental dancers were not respected, are not respected. I had no idea. So facing this reality was shocking to me. It saddened me, it frustrated me. I wondered, how is it possible that in Egypt, Egyptians don't respect their own dance, don't respect the professional dancers who practice their own dance? Later on, of course, I understood why they don't, okay? But that's another conversation. That's a huge conversation, by the way. So these were the biggest challenges I encountered. Some students and friends, they talk about the Arabic language, right? I mean, did you know how to speak Arabic language? And I did not know how to speak Arabic, no, not at the time. I mean, I knew Habibi, and I knew Salamu alaikum, alaikum salam. That's it, okay. But I think that when you want to communicate, you find a way of communicating. And the truth is, Egyptians in general are they're so sweet, they're so communicative, they're very social people. So even if you don't speak Arabic, you will find a way of communicating, either in English or in French or in Spanish or body language, you know, but you'll always find a way of communicating. So I don't think that not speaking Arabic at the time was a big challenge. I did not feel it was a big challenge, not in Egypt, okay. What else? How did you find and prepared an orchestra for your first show? Okay, so even before I found and prepared my orchestra for my first official show and I signed my first contract in Egypt, I had already gathered an orchestra for auditions. So after the period where dancers, foreign dancers, were not allowed to perform, that law that I've already mentioned, after that period where I was doing those parallel dance gigs and while I was in Oman and Lebanon, when I came back and when I was finally able to search for a contract and to audition for a contract, I had already gathered an orchestra for auditions. Not the same orchestra that would be my orchestra for my work, okay? So how did I find my orchestras? For the audition, it was a funny thing because I had to search for musicians and I did not know where, right? I had no idea where. Then again, I had no buffer between me and the world. I had no manager, no one to guide me or to facilitate things for me. So I had to go to places where I knew good musicians were playing and I had to pick them from the stage, literally, and gather a group that I felt in my ear, in my innocence, was a good group, okay? Obviously, later on, as I signed my first contract, good musicians would recommend another good musician, and that good musician would recommend another good musician, and this is how my orchestra got together. It started with me searching for the musicians that I liked right here, that I felt were artists, but then the good ones call another good ones. They know each other, right? So it all ends up composed and complete, all right? Now, I know this is not the case for every Oriental dancer, and let me remind you that not everybody moves to Egypt for the same reason. Not everybody moves to Egypt in the same way. A lot of dancers move to Egypt and claim to be performing in Egypt when they're working for free. Sometimes they're being badly, poorly paid, doing gigs in restaurants and low-level nightclubs I would never set a foot on. It is a tricky business and there are many ways to go about it, okay? My idea was not to lower myself. I wanted to dance in good venues with great musicians and being well paid under contract. I wanted to be a legal dancer so that I could be at ease and grow my name and grow my career. I did not want to dance anywhere for free or poorly paid without orchestra, without conditions, without respect, just to say that I'm performing in Egypt. It was not for me. Then again, I respect everybody has their own way of doing things, but my idea and my goal was always to dignify myself and dignify me as a dancer. So I had a lot of invitations for places that I said no to. I had a lot of invitations for great five-star places that I said no to because they would come up in exchange for prostitution. I would have to go out with someone or even to marry someone. And I said no. And these are personal choices. Although I don't judge the choices of other dancers, how they move to Egypt and why and how they do things, I do believe, and this is just my opinion, okay, don't kill me for it. I do believe that the more we respect ourselves and the more we respect our craft as Oriental dancers, the more we contribute for the respect and the dignity of the dance itself. So if dancers continue to sell themselves cheap, to work for free, to work in terrible places where there are drugs and alcohol and men, and they're treated like an object, not like an artist. If they go to Egypt just to say I'm in Egypt dancing, but they accept terrible conditions and they sabotage their progress and they sabotage themselves by saying yes to things that are not respectful and yes to things that are not dignifying, I do not believe they're doing a service to the dance. It is just my opinion, okay? Because then again, the more dancers set a high standard for what they say yes to, the more people will respect Oriental dancers and Oriental dance. It is in our hands, it is our responsibility. A lot of the bad reputation that Egyptian dance has in Egypt and outside of Egypt has to do with the choices, I would say poor choices, that a lot of Oriental dancers do. Just because they want to work, just because they want to be seen, just because they want to film it and put it on YouTube. That's it. I think this is dangerous. It does not make for a long-lasting, strong career, and it certainly does not contribute to the evolution and the respect and the dignity of this art form that we claim to love so much. So there are different ways of doing things. Okay, this is just my way. I chose my first musicians. I orchestrated them myself. By the way, I was the one orchestrating my bands, my musicians most of the time. I would have one or another musician, usually the org player or someone from the melodic section who was strong and who knew how to read and write music, or the tabal, okay, the tabla player. That would work as leaders of the orchestra, but in the end of the day, I was the one orchestrating them. I was the one sitting with them, rehearsing and telling them what I want and how I want it, music by music, before every show. Okay, so I would gather with my musicians practically every day, before the show or and after the show or shows, to work on the music that we were going to present. Yeah, usually, or in the old days, there used to be an orchestrator. So there was a musician or an assistant or a manager whose job was to coordinate and orchestrate the band. Okay. Nowadays, because dance jobs are not paid like before in Egypt, there is less money running. And also because you don't find a lot of good musicians who can orchestrate in a good way. Dancers have to take charge. At least I had to take charge of that part. I did not trust anyone to do it. So I would correct the songs. I would tell them how I wanted them played. I would listen to the musical pieces we would do. I would ask for a change of tempo or a little bit more of an instrument or a different interpretation. So the orchestration of the music that I was presenting on stage was mostly done by me and by the leaders of the band, okay? The ones that I trusted, yeah? How was your routine as a professional dancer in Egypt? Then again, I'm gonna tell you about my routine. It is not the routine of every dancer, okay? So when I started professionally, I mean legally, with my first contract in Egypt, my life changed drastically. I had less time, I had less energy, and all my focus was made or was directed to the shows that I was doing daily. I started working a few days per week, and then I was working every day as per request. Now, I got a contract with a beautiful gentleman called Mr. Chaudhry. He's Indian. He was managing the Oberoi hotels in Egypt, and he was the first one, I would say the only one, who got me a fair chance. He did not know me from anywhere. He was not my friend, not my family, but he told me, if you're good enough, we'll sign a contract. If people ask for you, we'll schedule you. If they don't, we won't. So there is no promise. He allowed me to do an audition with live band and actual audience. And the agreement was that I would stay depending on the feedback of the guests, Egyptians, not foreigners. If they liked me, if they wanted to come back and asked for my name, I would stay. If they didn't like me, and if they did not ask for my name, they would not sign a contract with me. I say, okay, okay, let's do it. Because before this, I had already had, how can I put this in an elegant way? I had auditions and I had already signed at least one contract, one big contract with the best place in Cairo at the time for Egyptian dance, but all of them came with strings attached. That meant I got to the point of preparing an entire orchestra, doing an audition, getting the contract signed. And when the owner, well, not the owner, the manager of the place understood that I was not going to go out with him, he canceled it all. He closed it. End of conversation. He went as far as telling me about the story of a famous dancer, Egyptian dancer, very well known, that had been his girlfriend. So I had a lot of dirt coming at me, and I had a lot of different attempts of contracts and auditions that ended up the same way. I was gonna go out with these guys and basically prostitute myself and get a chance, or if I said no, the conversation was over. Okay? So when I got the fair deal, the fair offer of presenting myself, of auditioning and staying if the audience wanted me, that was paradise to me. That was like an angel coming to me and giving me exactly what I needed. So I said yes to this proposal. Let's see what happens. And in the space of a month, I was performing with my first orchestra almost on a daily basis. Okay. And I signed the contract. I stayed in this place for many years with the same manager. And when the management changed, I got a better, bigger contract in another place, and I started moving up. But don't believe it was easy. It was a long path. It was a path full of rocks, and it was a path where I had to prove myself and my talent every single day, at every single show. What else? I forgot to tell you about my routine. So from the moment I signed my first contract, as I mentioned, my life changed because after years, after years of dreaming about this, of trying, of getting shock after shock at meetings in Cairo and understanding that Oriental dancers were seen basically as prostitutes. And I know people don't like me to say this, but it is true. So deal with it, okay? After all this, having received the chance to do this job in a respectful, professional way, I knew I was gonna juice it. I was gonna make the best of it. So my routine was very basic. I searched for an apartment nearby the place where I was performing. I would get up in the morning, have my breakfast, go to the gym, work out, perhaps go a little bit to the swimming pool to gain some color. Then I would go home, have lunch, start preparing myself depending on the time of the shows. Sometimes I would perform only at night, sometimes during the afternoon and at night, sometimes from the morning, and from as soon as 11 in the morning. Can you believe it? Hurtful, but it is true. So depending on the schedule I would have, I would stay a little bit longer at home or leave for work earlier, but I would start preparing my makeup, my hair, my dresses. I would eventually go to the venue and rehearse with the musicians. I would prepare for the show, do the shows, end up quite late, usually come back home, relax, rest, recover, and do it all over again. So my life was very much limited to performing daily, rehearsing almost daily, going to the gym, and getting ready to perform. That's it. I did not have much life aside from those routines, okay? That was my life for many years. Now, what else? Did Mahmoud Reda help your career? I love this question. A lot of dancers know of my association with Mahmoud Reda, either because they have seen me performing and being influenced by Mahmoud's work, either because they have been my students and they know how much I honor Mahmoud's work, or because they have seen me teaching with Mahmoud in Cairo and abroad. The question is, Mahmoud Reza started as my teacher, Egyptian folkloric teacher. I searched for him when I signed my first contract because I wanted to have a tableau of tahtib. And of course, he was the best person to help me learn tahtib and put the tableau together. And from that point on, we became very good friends, and eventually we started working together. Okay, I started choreographing with him, assisting him in choreography, assisting him in teaching in Egypt, outside of Egypt. So our relationship developed in a very organic way, very organic way. He was my best friend, my grandfather, my dance companion, my everything, my family, really. Now, he did not help me directly. Okay, this is something that a lot of dancers get wrong because they believe that my association with Mahmoud was what opened doors for me in Egypt. It is not true at all, for different reasons. First of all, because I never asked him for that kind of help. I wanted to learn from him. I wanted to be with him because I loved him. That's it. I was not interested in his help for my career. I was dealing with that by myself and I was doing well. Thank you very much. Also because Mahmoud Reza is out of the environment of Raqs al-Sharqi in Egypt. He built a career for himself, a folkloric career, not an Egyptian Oriental dance career, but a career in Egyptian folklore. He created his own market, his own context, his own environment, and he had no connections in the dirty underworld of the Cairo dancing. He had no connections and he had no interest in having connections in that world, the world that I was moving in. So even if he wanted to help me, I don't think he could have done so. He introduced me to one musician who was also a manager, and the husband of a dancer also, and then the husband of another dancer, and then the husband of another dancer. And I did not get along with him. And I told him, Mahmoud, this is not going to roll. This guy is not a good thing. It's not a good person. He's a snake. So not on my watch. I'm not interested. I would rather be alone with my musicians than being with my musicians with a snake in the midst. No. So this was as far as Mahmoud did in terms of helping me in practical terms in my career. Now, he helped me in other ways, okay? He helped me in other ways. He helped me by encouraging me. He helped me by inviting me to work with him. He helped me by teaching me everything I know about Egyptian folklore and a lot of what I know about Egyptian Oriental dance. He helped me by supporting me as a grandfather, as a friend in my worst periods in Egypt. He helped me by being there for me at all times for anything and everything that I needed. He helped me emotionally, mentally. So although it did not interfere with my career, he did not open a specific door or created an opportunity for me, he helped me in indirect but powerful ways. Yes. What else? How different it was to navigate this business without maybe not having a full grasp of Egyptian Arabic. I think I've already answered this question. Although learning Egyptian dialect was important, and I did so very quickly, I would say in the first 6 months of work under contract, when I was stable and fixed in Cairo, I learned how to speak quite quickly. But in the beginning, that was not, at least as far as I remember, that was not a big problem because it is easy to communicate in Egypt. It is easy. I'm going to tell you a story that I think answers this question. My parents came to visit me on several occasions. They went to Egypt once per year, perhaps twice per year, because I could not leave. I was under contract, and from the moment I signed my first contract, I was always under contract, so I could not just leave. So they would come for me. And they would know my musicians, they would know my team, my assistants, everybody. And my musicians did not speak English. My father struck a relationship, a friendship with one specific musician, a tabal. God has his soul for sure. His name was Hosni Watatak, a beautiful tabal, very well known, very well respected. He was my tabal, my tabla player for many years. And my father struck a relationship, a friendship with Hosni Watatak. And Hosni did not speak Portuguese or English or any other language, just Arabic. He would go out with my father and he would hang out with my father at the coffee shops, and he would even speak with my father on the phone after my father had returned from Egypt without a language in common. So my father does not speak Arabic, never did, and Hosni Watatak did not speak except for Arabic. If you ask me how is this possible that two men can communicate without a common language between them, even on the phone, I will tell you this is the magic of Egypt. In general, as I've already mentioned, Egyptians are very communicative, and there's a lot of people who speaks English perfectly. Okay, so if you know English or Spanish or French, you'll be fine. In Egypt, you will always find a way to communicate. So not speaking Egyptian Arabic was not a big problem. It wasn't. I also started studying singing, Arabic singing, from early on. Because I had time in the beginning, I was not yet working full time, and because I knew that I would probably not have the patience to go to an Arabic language school, but I would gladly learn Arabic from singing. So this is also how I started knowing Kulthum and Said El Darwish and Muhammad Abdul Wahab and Farid El Atrash and Abdul Halim Hafiz in depth. I started to know them because I was singing them in a singing school in a place called Mohandesin. So my first Arabic words came from my singing lessons, actually, and I learned Arabic quite fast and lovingly. It's still my favorite language. Sorry guys, sorry to the Portuguese people who are watching. I'm Portuguese, but quite honestly, Arabic is the most beautiful language in the world. Sorry. It's my taste, okay? Now, did you find the local Arab performers hostile and attempting to sabotage your work opportunities? And what was their reaction to you as a foreign dancer generally? Okay, so my answer is yes. The local Arab performers were hostile, very hostile to my presence. Not only the local Arab performers, but also the foreigners, the couple of foreigners that were there. And yes, they did try to sabotage my work opportunities in many ways. At some point, when I signed a big contract at one of the most important places of Cairo for Oriental dance, I had the police sent to my show every week. Someone would call the police and tell them I was either illegal or I had drugs in my bag, in my dressing room, or one of my musicians had done something, whatever. There were always allegations that draw the police into my show every week. It was so bad that at some point we started to welcome them as regular guests. Like, okay, here they come again. Let's put up a good show for them because, I mean, they're coming every week. There was also someone who made a report on me telling the police that I had drugs in my suitcase, in my dance suitcase at some point. So there was a search due to this accusation, due to this allegation. My dance bags and makeup bags were opened in the middle of the night by the police because someone had reported that I, Joana, had drugs in my bags. Let me remind you that These are allegations, and these are evil attempts of harming someone that could end up in jail. Very easily, I could have ended up in jail, okay? Of course, they never found anything because there was nothing to be found, but they tried to bring me down, and they tried to get me out of the horizon. This was their way of competing with me. I always wondered, why don't dancers compete in a fair, clean way? If you want to compete with me, Egyptian or foreign dancer, be better than me, right? Beat me at my own game. Be a better dancer, be a better performer, be a better teacher, be a better choreographer. Do it better than me. This is how you compete. This is how you beat someone to the pulp, by being better than them. That kind of competition I respect. The kind of low-level, dirty competition that targets you and wants to destroy you because you bother them and because you put them in a fragile position, the kind of competition that makes dancers hurt other dancers just to get them off the horizon, I do not respect. I can't respect. I think that is criminal. It is humiliating for the ones who harm others, and it is a signal that you're not that good to start with, because when we're talented, when we're strong at what we do, we're safe. We are secure. I don't need to harm someone in order to uplift myself, to be successful. I rely on my talent to be successful. I rely on the quality of my work to be successful. I am the best at what I do, period. So this is my way of competing. I would never, never hurt somebody else in order to feel myself going up. That's ridiculous, but it happens. It happens. I had dance clothes burnt by cigarettes in my dressing room. I had nails put on my shoes so that I would stick them in my feet and destroy my feet. There are many stories, many real life stories that people don't even dream about. I had a very famous dancer, very famous Egyptian dancer, who at some point was dividing the schedule with me, who would come to see my shows, almost undercover, to steal the program of my show. So she would come, she would watch everything, what I was doing, and then she would ask her orchestra to do a similar program because she was convinced that I was successful because of my program, because of my musicians, because of whatever. So she would come undercover, and I caught her one time. I faced her face to face and I told her, "Welcome, ahlan wa sahlan ya habibti. Inti hina, mufaga kibira, big surprise. What are you doing here? Yani." Fie. She was she was terrified, of being found, of being seen. But I saw her at least one time, and my team would tell me, "She's here again. So be aware, your show is gonna be copied from the beginning till the end." And I was okay with it. I was okay with it because then again, I was changing my program, the show of my program, if not every week, every day. I knew that what brought the audience to the show was not the program, was the quality of the dance and the quality of the music, my musicians, what they did, and also my dance and what I did. And I knew that copies are never as good as originals. So I would bless her and wish her luck. That's it. Okay. So yes, a lot of Arab performers, Egyptians specifically, and foreigners as well, attempting to sabotage my work. Absolutely. But it comes with the territory. Okay. And in this field, unfortunately, this concept of competing through quality is not very common. Okay. So people will rather eliminate you than working hard to beat you, to be better than you. They would rather harm you and put you off the stage so that you don't show up, so that you don't show yourself, than having to prove their talent and having to prove that they are better than you. Unfortunately, this is the case most of the times in this field. not only in Egypt. Okay, I had many stories of performers trying to harm my work in different places around the world where I traveled to teach and perform and judge. So it is not just a thing of Egypt. It's just that in Egypt, the market is so small and it is so competitive and so corrupted. Everything becomes harder and everything becomes harsher and more savage. Okay, but it happens everywhere. My reaction to these attacks, as I've already mentioned, was always, first of all, indignation, because I do believe that if I have to harm somebody else in order to raise myself up, then I'm not that good. Okay, I found what low self-esteem, right? If I feel I have to harm someone in order to shine, what a low self-esteem I must have. And I kept focusing on myself, focusing on my dance, on my musicians, on my work, and I let them do whatever they wanted to do, knowing very well that in the end of the day, the truth prevails and quality wins. That was my reaction. It's still my reaction, by the way. Wink, wink. Okay, what else? Is it true that you had to escape from Lebanon? This is a long story. I'm not going to have time to tell you the entire story, but yes, it is true. I had to escape from Lebanon. I had a contract in Lebanon, a good contract in Beirut, with a beautiful orchestra, a house, great payment, everything amazing, and with a very famous impresario of the Middle East. But I mean, really famous, very respected, very well known, an older impresario. And at some point, he started calling me to his office every day. And there were approximations, let's say, there were invitations that were personal, not professional. When I made it clear that I was not going to be his next girlfriend, everything fell down. He started putting extra pressure on me. His brother was putting extra pressure on me. I was being told indirectly and later on directly that I had to obey what I was told. I had to do what he wanted me to do. And I told him I want to drop off. I don't want this contract anymore. I'm not feeling respected. You're not respecting me. I'm not here to be your girlfriend. I'm here to be a dancer. That's my job. And if that's a non-negotiable, let's call it quits. I will come back to Egypt immediately. But he did not want to let me go. And in Lebanon, your employer has control over you, over your entrance and exit from Lebanon. You have to go to a place in the ministry where your employer signs papers claiming he or she is responsible for you, for your arrival and for your departure. So we had signed these papers when I arrived to Lebanon, and then in order to leave, I had to go with him or someone from his company to the same place for him to let me go, to release me legally. He did not want to do that. He wanted to keep me in Lebanon by force. I told him, okay, you keep me here by force, but I will find the press, the Lebanese press, and I will tell them what you're doing to me. Mother. He said, no, you won't. I'm a powerful man. I said, whatever. Watch me. So I had to threaten him. I had to tell him, when I go on stage, I will not dance. I will tell the audience who you are and what you're doing to me, and I'm going to contact the press, and I'm going to make a scandal you will never get up from. And this was the only way I could get away from Lebanon. It is a very long story, interesting story, but I think I've answered your question. Yes, the great escape from Lebanon. It happened. Okay. What else? Did you marry an Egyptian in order to benefit your career? Okay. So then again, this is something a lot of Oriental dancers do. foreign Oriental dancers, they marry Egyptians because legally things are made easier, or because there is a specific musician or impresario or manager or someone in power that is convenient to their career, so they marry because there is an interest, a professional and financial interest on the table. Although I had several invitations for marriages that were very convenient to me and to my career, I believe that marriage is a personal love decision. So I never married an Egyptian. Not to benefit my Egyptian career, my career in Egypt, not to benefit anything. I never went that route. Then again, I think it depends on everyone and our values and our choices and our consciousness. I would never marry someone because that person is benefiting my career. I think this is another way of prostituting myself. I am selling my love and my body and my life in exchange for benefits for my work. It doesn't sound correct to me. So although it is quite frequent, and I would say that most foreign Oriental dancers at some point marry an Egyptian because it benefits their career, that was never my choice. Sorry guys to disappoint you. I know when people ask me about this, they expect some dirt, some secret husband. No, there's no secret husband. The men I was with were men I loved. I never felt I had to marry them because they were not the right men to marry. And when it comes to work, I conquer what I want through my talent, my value, and my work ethics, what I deliver, the value of what I deliver as an Oriental dancer, as a teacher, as an author. I don't need a man or a marriage to lift me up. Nope. Vavon. Last question. Why did you decide to leave Egypt? Why did you decide to leave Egypt? Okay, guys. So last question that I have selected for you. Why did I decide to leave Egypt? There was not one single reason. There were several reasons coming together at the same time. So there was a point when I was creatively bored. This was the first reason. I started to feel that I could have done more in Egypt if I had accepted to get into the prostitution game. What do I mean by this? I was already performing at the best venue of the country with the best musicians I've ever heard. I was doing it all in my own terms. I had conquered all I wanted to conquer except for doing cinema. I wanted to do cinema, first of all, because I'm trained as an actress. I had already some experience in acting. I had education in acting. I had done the Conservatoire of Theatre and Cinema. At the time, I spoke Arabic fluently, so I knew I could jump into the cinema and perhaps bring great roles of Oriental dancers to the cinema. The question is that the roles that were proposed to me were horrible. They put Oriental dancers in a very bad place, so they were not roles that I was gonna accept playing. And also because the meetings I had with directors and with agencies were very similar to the meetings I had with impresarios and managers in the field of Egyptian dance performances. The deal was always, we offer you this opportunity if you go out with this person. Okay. It was ridiculously predictable. And I know that other dancers may have other experiences. Sometimes when I tell about these experiences that I had, dancers say, no, that doesn't happen. It does happen because it happened to me. If a dancer is able to go through some path, go through some stages of evolution in her or his Egyptian dance career in Egypt and not deal with sexual harassment and offers of prostitution, I say kudos to you. You're a unicorn. Great, you were lucky. I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm saying with me, this is how it happened. Okay. So I had proposals of moving to the cinema and launching myself in the cinema, which of course would be the next step in popularity and something that I really wanted, but in exchange for things that I really was not gonna do. So I found myself stuck in a point of, this is as far as I can go. This is as far as they will let me go. I would often tell this to my musicians. They would ask me, Juju, Yani, why don't you accept this invitation or that? I say, guys, you know why. You know me. You know why I say no. I'm a fanana. I'm an artist. I'm not here as a geisha or as a prostitute. I'm an artist. Sorry. Okay. So I knew that I was stuck. This was as far as they would let me go without killing my soul, without selling my soul to the devil. And I was never going to sell my soul to the devil, because I don't think that ambition must be stronger than dignity. Ambition is great. It's beautiful. I'm very ambitious, but I'm also dignified. I like to respect myself. I like the person I am. I like to be able to speak with everyone like this, not like this. Okay? I'm a proud person. So that means I would never do something that I was not proud of, that I did not respect. And I felt creatively stuck. I said, this is as far as I can go. The next step, which would be cinema, they will not allow me to go for it unless I play the game. And I don't want to play the game. So what else? What else? There is nothing more to conquer, nothing more to experience, nothing more to do here. I was feeling comfortable, bored, stagnated, and I felt it was time to spread my wings and to share everything that I had experienced and learned in all of those years, almost a decade of my life in Egypt, with the entire world. So my restlessness was also related with the fact that I knew that from Egypt I had to share what I have learned with the entire world, physically at first and then online, reaching even more people than I've already reached in my physical work. Okay? On another level, there was the Egyptian Revolution, the Arab Spring in 2011, and then a year where there was no work in dance in Egypt. Right after, during and right after the Arab Spring, there was no dance work, no music work in Egypt. And of course, I lived and still live off my work. So I wondered, how long am I going to stay here without work? And who's going to pay the bills? You know? And even, do I have a reason to stay? Is there something else I want to achieve? Something else I want to do? And the answer was no. This chapter is closed. It was so obvious to me. And of course it was scary because I was in a comfortable place. I had conquered my place of respect in the field of Egyptian dance in Egypt. It was a market that knew me, respected me, and had embraced me, finally. But I also knew that evolution comes from surrendering the old self, surrendering old conquests, and opening yourself up for new worlds, new conquests, new learning processes, new phases of development. So I closed the door after much hesitation, and immediately, but I mean immediately, I started getting convite. In Portuguese we say convite, convite, invitations to travel the entire world, teaching and performing and judging, choreographing, learning at another level, and sharing everything I had gathered in so many years of life and career in Egypt. So this is why I left Egypt, and this is how I left it. I hope this session has inspired you. I know there are a lot of dancers who wonder about the world of Egyptian dance in Egypt. The biggest gift that I personally collected from this experience was the chance to perform with the best musicians and the chance to perform for the best audiences, which are, no doubt, Egyptian audiences. Egyptian musicians and Egyptian audiences, they made it all worthy. Aside from the knowledge I gathered from my relationship and everything I learned from Mahmoud Reda, my Egyptian friends, a few but very good, the love for the Arabic language, the Arabic culture, the love for Egypt. Because when I speak about Egypt and my experience, I speak the truth. It doesn't mean I don't love Egypt. I love Egypt. And it is in me. I usually tell my friends, and my family, I never left Egypt. It's here. It's with me. I carry it with me. So speaking the truth is a way of empowering us. When I choose not to ignore the elephants in the room, when I choose to bring you the truth, my truth, the things that I have witnessed, I have lived, I am honoring Egypt and hoping for a better future for the country and for the dance of the country. Raqs al-Baladi, Raqs al-Sharqi, the Oriental dance we love and adore. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Let me know if you did. And I'm going to invite you, as usual, to join our community by subscribing to our free and fabulous newsletter, Joana Saahirah's World Newsletter. When you do, you get access to free goodies on authentic Egyptian dance, personal discovery, and empowerment. And you also get access to our free ebook, Welcome to Egyptian Dance Wonderland. You will find the link to subscribe, to join our global community, and be the first to receive our news, offers, and inspirations, either in the link that I'm sharing in the comments to this video, or in the description box below this video if you happen to watch the replay of this Juju Live session in my YouTube channel. I will see you soon. Until then, all my love and my warmest kiss. Mwah.